I want you to meet Daniel. He bought 4 manufacturing businesses totaling 6 million of annual turnover without spending a penny of his own money. And he only spends 10 hours a week in the business and plays golf twice a week. Let's listen to his story. If you're serious about buying a business, then take my brand new, completely free training course. There's a link somewhere up here in the corner of the video. Click the link, take the course, and you could be buying a business in the next 100 days. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, tap the notifications bell, and you will receive a notification the next time I release a new video. I want to introduce you to our first guest of the weekend. And it's someone that I've known for a number of years. He started working with me in 2019. And in the tradition that we intend to continue across the next 2 days of making sure there is plenty of enthusiasm, energy, and applause in the room, would you please get ready, that's your cue, to welcome to the front of the room, Daniel Beaumont. It's a slightly longer walk than expected, isn't it? And clearly they slightly misallocated the amount of applause required to get you to the centre of the room. Good to see you, Danny. So tell us a little bit about your journey so far. Can we start with some headline facts and figures, if that's okay?
Yeah, okay. So I did the Mastermind in 2019 and finished it in 2020. I did my first deal in August 2020, and I now have a group of manufacturing businesses that turns over 8 million. So 4 businesses, combined revenue 8 million.
Fantastic. How do you feel about that?
Pretty good.
Okay. glad to hear it. Profitable, I hope?
Yep. This year,
give us a rough number.
Should do about 800k net profit.
Okay, great. And before you got into this, what were you employed before? Were you had a family business?
Yeah, started off my career as a chartered accountant, and then took over running our family textile business, which is a curtain fabric wholesaler. A lot of hard work for not much reward.
Okay.
So you're probably at the 10 on effort, 0 on there.
You might not be the only one.
We got an offer out the blue from a Saudi Arabian business who was looking to get into the UK, and they offered us, silly money.
So this is a family business owned by?
Me and my parents.
Okay.
So my parents, I own 50%, my parents own 50%. They retired, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get them out the business? Do I want to take on another mortgage?
You mean to buy them out?
To buy them out.
Yeah.
Like, not really. That'd just be a headache. So this offer, got an email out of the blue saying, and did the deal. I had to stay on running it for 3 years.
Okay.
Absolutely hated that.
Yeah, most people do, don't they?
Yeah.
Once you sold, you've gone. You don't want to hang around. Yeah.
So started after about 2 weeks of this. Thought, what am I going to do in 3 years' time? And by chance found you through a podcast or possibly listened to a lot of podcasts. Signed up to the Mastermind. So
you were a dabbler, but you got serious.
Yeah, well, I thought, what am I going to do next? So the plan was do my 3 years, then do the Mastermind. But then I thought, well, actually, why not do the Mastermind and start planning ahead so I can hit the ground running on day one, which almost 3 years to the day ago I did.
Oh, right. That's the timescale? Okay, great. So let's get into some of the detail. What I'm actually quite interested in, and I think other people will be, I'll ask you the questions that I think people are thinking, and then we'll open it up to Q&A, and then you can ask the questions that you're really thinking, okay? So I think people might be thinking, well, look, 8 million revenue business, very nice that you're making 800,000 on the bottom line, very nice, mustn't grumble. But you sold a business, and you said you sold it for a decent amount, then maybe you had an advantage in that you took some of that money to launch you to do those four acquisitions. Tell us.
Well, it gave me the financial security that I had time to make a go of this, give it a proper go. So I gave myself 2 years to do one deal, and I knew I had money in the bank to be able to fund.
But it didn't take you 2 years?
No.
How long did it take?
It took me 7 months.
Okay.
From
7 months from when to when? What's the time scale here?
So I sent my first letters in January 2020.
Okay.
Had a bit of a break during lockdown where I had to look after my children.
Yes.
It was rather inconvenient.
Oh, yeah. We all entered the world of homeschooling at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did another batch of letters, I think April 20, in the 2 hours I had for myself during the day.
Okay.
And then response from that letter, one of those letters, and then the deal was early August 2020.
Okay. So not an unreasonable amount of time.
No.
But did you put any, I think really the question I was asking was, did you put any of your own money in to those 4 acquisitions?
No.
You sure?
0.
Okay.
Not a penny.
So what type of businesses are they?
The manufacturing businesses.
Ah, okay. So what do they manufacture?
So the first one is a press tool manufacturer. So you manufacturers making like car components or something. Sheet of metal goes in with a press, squashes it or forms it into the shape, and we make the tool that sits either side. That's about the extent of what I know about tool making. Got a plastic compression moulding business up in Washington near Newcastle. Squashing plastic this time into a shape. Again, that's about the extent of what I know about that.
I'm seeing a theme develop here, yeah.
A metal fabrication business in Duckingfield, East Manchester, and then a steel profiling business, which is steel cutting with a plasma cutter, in Leeds.
Okay, great. So what were the sizes of the 4 deals? So size of deal number 1.
In terms of size of the business or the consideration?
In terms of the size of the business. So let's use revenue as our sort of measurement stick.
So deal 1 was just over 2 million turnover. Deal 2 was just over 1 million turnover. Deal 3 was 1 million turnover, and deal 4 was 4 million turnover.
Oh, so quite a big jump on deal 4. Now, it's a bit of a leading question, because I think I kind of know what you're going to say. Was I was saying earlier that the larger businesses are the easier to do deals on, and we should be expanding our thinking and thinking bigger. Which was the easiest and which was the hardest deal?
Easiest deal was the last one, the 4 million turnover. Number of reasons. One, it was the 4th deal, so you've had a bit of practice, you know what to look out for. But in terms of sourcing the funding, easier, bigger, there's more, less risk because there's more headroom.
Better management.
Better management. More sophisticated seller in terms of understanding risk and what have you. And they were taking a bigger number out. So slight adjustments weren't that big a deal.
Yes.
Most difficult one was the smallest one.
Okay.
So much so on the Monday morning where we were hoping to complete that week, he rang me up and said, I can't do this. It's taken too long.
And how long was too long, by the way?
Been 2 to 3 months.
Oh.
Maybe a bit more. It'd taken a bit longer. It'd taken a while to get the finance.
Right.
Smaller business, harder to get the finance. And I was like, we're 99% there. Like, stick with it. I think we're only missing this point. And so we completed 2 days later. But I had to go around to his office and I was running around getting pieces of paper for him, helping him scan it and stuff. And it was like...
Oh, so we actually helped him complete?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. that's a new one. I like that. So he had this crisis of, I don't think I can do it. You know, was that a tactic or was that a genuine, the pressure's got too much for me?
Genuine. It's the lawyers. Like...
Yeah.
What happens if this happens, this clause here?
Oh, so they were putting fear in his mind of every eventuality that might happen,
Yeah.
and usually doesn't.
Yeah, and he's a welder who built a business.
Okay.
You know, probably quite a lot to take in. And you suddenly think, oh,
Well, it's a whole new
this.
world of finance and accounting and legal stuff, isn't it? Okay, interesting. So out of the 4 deals, hardest one was the smallest, easiest one was the largest. So you've got a group of turning over 8 million. Are the 4 businesses working independently? Have you consolidated the back office? And what have you done?
No, they're all standalone businesses. So initial strategy I set out 3 years ago was to have a group of 5 that operate independently in different sectors to spread my risk and my interest. So the first 2 were separate businesses. Third one, the metal fabrication business. I thought, sort of driving around and you start seeing signs for fabricators here and there. And I thought, well, actually, this is a market that could be consolidated. So I set out on doing a buy and build around the fabrication business, and it's the one that I had to get involved with least headaches in that one. Got a good guy running it for me. So I wrote, about 400 letters last August time to companies with the same SIC code as the fabrication business. One of the responses to letters was the steel profiling business, which doesn't actually complement it particularly well, although they can do a bit of work for each other. But it was just a good deal, standalone deal. So I just went for that one. But I'm still now, I sent 150 letters last week, or the week before, start of January, around the fabrication side. So I'm still going to try and do a buy and build.
So 8 million isn't the sort of the end of the journey. What is there an end, or is it you keep on going until you've got the right exit?
Keep on going. I thought I'd be limited by 5. I thought that'd be too much. We don't have enough bandwidth to do it anymore.
Okay.
But I don't have any day-to-day involvement with the businesses. I get my monthly or weekly KPIs from the business. I control the bank accounts, so I authorise all the payments.
Okay.
I get involved if there's a problem. Something goes wrong, they tell me about it, and I say, here's what you need to do, or you need to speak to somebody or other.
So your day-to-day involvement is, and I've got to say, I think that's key to making this work, because otherwise the bandwidth gets used up and you can't do any more if so many things are landing on your desk. Believe me, I know what that feels like. So how much time would you say on a typical week, unless there's any great catastrophe, how much time in a typical week would you spend on the 4 altogether?
Not much.
You're being rather coy about that. So it's okay, you're amongst friends. You can tell us. I'm interrupting your video with a very important message. If you are watching a video like this, it's probably because you're serious about buying a business. But watching free videos on YouTube will only take you so far. You need to take the next step. And the next step is a link that's somewhere on the screen up at the top, which takes you through to our free video training. There's no cost whatsoever. You watch the free video training and that will give you some of the essential basics that you need. Now, if you get value from that, then I would invite you to be part of my next Fast Track program. Now, the Fast Track program has been running for a couple of years now. We've had nearly 3,000 people around the world on the Fast Track program, and it's a Zoom program that you can attend from anywhere. It's broadcast from my living room to your living room, where I will teach you what you need to know to go and buy your first business. And there's a Q&A section at the end of each of the training sessions, so you can ask me all of your questions. Now, if you get great value from that and you're really serious about buying a business, then there's my Mastermind program, a 12-month program where we hold your hand through the business buying process so that you can buy your first company. And when you have, I'll invite you into our inner circle, which is exclusively for people who've bought their first business. So that's what we've got lined up for you. It's up to you whether you take the next step. Anyway, back to the video.
I check the bank accounts every day, but that's
But that's pleasure, isn't
That's
it?
the 2 million job, you know.
Yeah, that's the bit, hopefully, is the most enjoyable part.
Mostly 0.
Okay, that's okay.
Ish.
Yeah.
I get an email on a Friday afternoon with the KPIs. What's our orders this week? What we invoiced. Monthly management accounts review. I went up to Newcastle this week to go out for dinner with the general manager, I hadn't seen him for a while.
Since you took over. Yeah.
No, I'll go up a bit. We had a meal out, then I went in the next day.
Okay.
And we had a walk around, sell it to staff, but there was nothing to do.
And you looked at all this machinery that does things, you've got no idea what it does, but you nodded sagely at everything, and good job.
Walk around and think, I own this, and I didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
You feel good, right?
Yeah.
And so you should.
Yeah.
So you should. Okay. So I'm not sure if you said, have you consolidated the financials?
Sorry, no. They're all standalone at
Okay.
the moment. They're in different geographical locations.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to overcomplicate things.
If it works, it works. You don't need to
Yeah.
do something that wouldn't really give you any great benefit.
No. And they're all pretty lean anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. That's absolutely amazing. So if you are at the 8, where do you think you're going to stop? Where do you think you get to that point where you've got a level of profitability? You must have some familiarity with exit multiples in your sector, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You spend all that free time of yours just sort of Googling,
So
how much can I make from this?
So the first 2 deals, I think I will sell them in the next 2-3 years.
Okay.
Once all the deferred's paid for and all the sort of debt-free, so they're sellable. They sit sort of they're on their own, really, so they'll never be able to integrate. They're probably ones you look to sell.
Okay.
And I've already had a chat with the general manager of one of them to do it. He can do a management buyout from me.
Oh, nice.
And I'll help him get the funding for that. The other ones, I want to build a bigger group out, and really you've got to be getting to sort of 1.5 million EBITDA to attract probably a PE buyer. That's not the definite plan, but that's a rough aim. But
yeah,
you know, I send my monthly management invoice fee, take the dividends, so that ticks along for the time being. That's fine.
You seem very relaxed.
Well, at the weekend without the kids.
Good answer. Good answer. And what do you do with all this spare time?
Play a bit of golf. Look for the next deal. So,
Nice.
like this
exactly
week,
what you should be doing.
So I sent 150 letters, 3rd of January. I had 5 responses. So I had 3 meetings last week. I've got 3 more next week. 1 linked through LinkedIn, the rest through letters.
Okay.
And that's the most time.
Oh,
Not the most time, but
how do you fit it all in? So,
and it's raining now. It's cold. You can't play golf.
so tell us a little bit about the bit that we haven't covered is the financing. Now, I do know because I remember asking you about the very first deal, which had the property.
Yep.
Can we talk about that one?
Yep.
Because I think it's an interesting strategy. It's an interesting approach. I've got no idea where you got it from, but it's a really good approach. So tell us about that first deal.
First deal, the toolmaking business owned the property, and the property was worth about $500,000, I think, give or take. So the deal structure was I paid for the property on day one. That was the initial consideration. And then the balance of the business was paid over 4 years. So the majority of the value is in the property. Mm-hmm. So the seller's getting the majority of their money on day one.
So getting $500,000 thereabouts.
Yeah.
Day one, and then the balance over several years.
Over 4 years, yeah. And so we agreed the heads of terms, and I went about finding a property investor to buy the property. And so while we're doing the share purchase agreement with the seller, I found a property investor, and part of the deal was on completion, the business sold the property to the property developer, who then leased it back to the business.
Yep.
The property investor paid the business, and then the business paid the seller.
Yes.
Well, in effect. So lots of moving parts, but all happened sort of instantaneously upon completion.
People often get confused about, how can you raise finance and sell a property when you don't yet own it, and it all happens simultaneously. So it's a little bit like remortgaging your own house or a buy-to-let property. You don't really worry about how it all happens. The solicitors deal with that, and it just all falls into place, and everything's moved around, and there are undertakings between solicitors, and the money gets moved, and the deal's done. Yeah, okay. So you effectively used the property to get you the business, because you wanted to be a tenant. You didn't want to be maybe you did, but at that point you didn't want to be the owner.
There was no other way of financing it, because it's the way the invoice, you take deposits, and it's all part invoice during the process, so you can't invoice finance.
Yes.
That you maybe could get a bit of asset finance on the plant and machinery, but not a significant amount. So the property was the big asset, and this was during lockdown. So the seller had a lot of uncertainty about the future of the business in any case.
Make a good point, yes.
So it was good for them to take that chunk of cash then, because they're thinking the business might go bust in 6 months anyway.
Right.
So
clearly it hasn't. So So the uncertainty that the pandemic brought creates that maybe I need to sell sooner rather than later, because I don't know what's around the corner, because none of us did. You might think, well, okay, I haven't got that pandemic advantage anymore. Well, now you've got a recession advantage. So, we can grumble about the recession, and I'm sure some of us will be grumbling about it in the bar this evening, but you can also see it as an opportunity. And you can say, well, if other people are becoming very uncertain about the future of their business and what the future holds, we now need to make the most of that ourselves, and really just go for it. It's that procrastination. Don't wait another year until things start to get better. This is the time to do it. Sorry for interrupting your video, but I wanted to introduce you to a great lawyer in the UK who can get your deals done for you. He's worked for 50 of my mastermind clients in the last few months alone. His name is John Andrews, and I've got his details right here in my little back book of contacts. You can phone him on 0345 241 2494, or you can email him on johnandrews.deallawyer@jmw.co.uk. If you want someone who can get a deal done, he is your guy. So let's get back to the video.
Try and do deals, even if they don't come off. You still learn what doesn't work, what does work, what options are available. So I yesterday rang up my finance broker and said, I've got this potential deal, and we've done a couple of deals together now, so I've got that sort of, he will look at it seriously for me. And I said, look, I think there are a couple of options here. He goes, yeah, I'll look at those, I'll see what else. So he's going to come back to me with potential financing options. So it might not get anywhere with this deal, but for another deal down the line, I think, I've got an idea for that one.
So just run us through the other three quickly in terms of financing. How did it work?
Okay, second deal was exactly the same deal structure. It owned the property, but this time I got a commercial mortgage on the property and borrowed money from the first business to pay the balance, because they'll only lend sort of, I think we got 70%.
So you got the 30% from the first business that you bought?
Yeah. So I own that property now.
Nice.
Which has advantages.
Yes.
Especially if you look to sell it in the future, there's an asset to be financed there for a potential buyer.
Or to retain.
I want to split it out, really, retain it myself, but there are options. Third one was a leverage buyout, combination of financing against the debtor book and I don't think they do them now, recovery loan scheme they're running. I think it finished in March time.
Well, there was a recovery loan scheme too that's still out there. It hasn't been publicised so much, but it's still useful, because actually acquisitions is one of the uses, the agreed uses of that money.
So that was leverage buyout. Fourth deal was
this was the big one.
the
Biggest one.
So we're having the face-to-face meeting, and we're going through the accounts sort of line by line, and you get to the debtors, right? Trade debtors are whatever they are, 600k, for example. Other debtors, about £1 million. Like, normally other debtors is like accruals or prepayments or whatever it is. I'm like, what's this? And he said, oh, that's the availability in the factoring facility.
Okay.
I'm like, what? Sorry, I've used invoice financing or this is factoring, but very similar. I've used invoice financing before. I've never seen it as an asset on the balance sheet. I'm like, can you explain a bit more? He said, well, because I've never fully drawn down on it, and we've been profitable, we've built up a surplus in the facility. I said, so you could log on now and draw down £1 million? He goes, yeah. I said, oh, that could be very useful. So we agreed a deal, and it was going to be a combination of it. That owns property. I said it was going to be a combination of commercial mortgage and using this £1 million that was available. We get to the day of completion. We had a call with HSBC, who had given me the commercial mortgage, and we were talking about the funds flow. And I was like, you need to tell HSBC, you need to tell us how you want it to work. And then we agreed something, and he rang back an hour later and said, I've got an issue. My director doesn't like the way the funds flow works because we can only lend it to the business, and the seller won't take on that debt because they don't want to take on the debt if the deal doesn't go through. And I'm like, you've known about, this. He said, but I've got a solution. There's 1.2 million available in that facility. I've already spoken to the seller and he said it's okay, who's his customer.
Yes.
So we'll just draw down on that facility. That pays initial consideration. And then tomorrow you can draw down on the mortgage. So we did that. And I'm like, do I even need the mortgage now? I don't know. We took it out anyway because we needed it for working capital going forward. But the seller must have been thinking, we've used my availability. Like, this guy's done.
You've just bought a 4 million revenue business using their own money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, don't know. I've never seen that before or since, that sort of surplus availability.
Well, but this is what we were saying about the toolkit, is having the more options you've got, the more things you can.
But it's only like they could have had it as just cash sat in the bank anyway.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Okay. But the seller got what they wanted.
Yeah.
You agreed a deal. They got what they wanted. I suppose it makes no difference to them where the money comes from because they can still spend it the same regardless of its source.
Yeah.
Great. You must have been jubilant when that deal completed.
Yeah, that was a good one. But it was smooth the whole way through.
Yeah.
So it was, there's only one or two sort of clauses that we sort of had to have a conversation about.
Any deal fees in any of these deals? They weren't the type. Opportunity to.
I paid all my legal fees and whatever fees through the businesses. I used the deal fee from the first one to buy the property on the second one.
Okay. But were there any opportunities to take money out on completion?
Yeah, there could have been. I decided not to because I didn't want to. I wanted to get the trust of the staff.
Right.
First. So yeah, I just wanted to keep.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Really good. Any other points that you'd like to make? Maybe picking up on anything that I was talking about this morning. Any of that resonate with you, and you can then tie it into your personal experience and share with everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. The smaller businesses are where you're going to get the most headaches. The bigger the deal, the easier it is, and the bigger the reward, which is what, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Otherwise, we're on that effort money line, aren't we? Yeah. We're putting all the effort in, but the reward isn't there.
Yeah. Follow the process.
Yeah.
It works. It works in terms of deal flow and in terms of being able to get to heads. Don't procrastinate. Because even if it's a deal that's not going to go anywhere, you learn something, or you're actively involved in doing it.
So in summary, Danny, how would you summarize the last 36 months?
Mostly good. And the bad, at the end of the day, wasn't too bad because I structured it the correct way.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of lessons on the way, and I made, it was my third deal, but I was still making the mistakes I'd listed up before, and I probably knew I was making them at the time.
Sometimes you're making a mistake, but you can justify it to yourself because your circumstances are different, and therefore it wouldn't apply. But it always does, doesn't it?
Yeah. But no, really good. I've overachieved what I was looking to achieve in the first sort of 3 years and what have you, and I am sort of got the work-life balance that I was looking for. I find it interesting, but I'm not I've got the freedom, financial freedom and freedom of time to go off on holiday or school holidays allowing and play golf. But I feel this is just sort of the start now. I'm in a place now where someone through LinkedIn, a LinkedIn post I put before Christmas, and had a meeting on Thursday for a 5 million turnover business that had no debt. But I've got an 8 million turnover group, so I'm sort of above him in terms of the power balance in that negotiation. So it's like right now, you can only think, right, let's forget the £1 million deals. They're just like, they're hard work now, let's look bigger. So I feel like now I've got a good platform to go onto the Jonathan scale.